Hey everyone, welcome to episode 12 of Theme Park Center. My name is Jonathan Holt, and we are returning from a 1-week break, which means, of course, we have some really exciting stuff to talk about. But in case you were wondering, we do a weekly podcast, so this show drops a new, fresh episode every single week. But for the select weeks that we do have to take a break for whatever circumstance arises, maybe there's an event in our personal lives or whatever that keeps us from doing a podcast that week, you can be kept up to date on everything that's happening over on our social media. So that's Facebook and Instagram at Theme Park Center FL. Don't forget the FL standing for Florida. So Theme Park Center FL on Facebook and Instagram. Over there, we'll keep you up to date on everything that is going on. So if there is a week that we have to take off and we don't announce it in the podcast itself, don't freak out. The show's not shutting down or anything, I swear, I promise. Just head over to our Facebook page or our Instagram page, and we will keep you up to speed there. But without further ado, let's get into the show. This week, we are talking about a few different things, and one of which, of course, is going to be the exciting announcement of the Jason Bourne stunt show over at Universal Studios, appropriately named the Jason Bourne Stuntacular, which I don't think is really news, so to speak, more of just an announcement because everyone already pretty much knew that this show was going in. It was basically like as confirmed as any rumor could be without being confirmed. So was it really news? Universal has this like weird thing where they don't like to announce things, but by the time they announce them, it's like everyone knows that it's happening, you know? Like, when are they going to announce this Jurassic Park roller coaster? It's like, we know that it's a roller coaster. The track is on site. There's no way it's not a roller coaster. It's going in the Jurassic Park area, so it's going to be Jurassic something. It's going to be Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. It's probably going to be World. There's rumors of it being like Raptor themed. I digress. Anyways, we're not talking about that, but my point made. Universal has this weird thing where they don't like to announce things until it's like already, like, people just know that it's coming. How long now have we known that Jason Bourne was going to be in here? I mean, all the rumor sites have been talking about it. People have had inside sources that have been saying it's going to be Jason Bourne since day one. Well, maybe not day one, but, you know, like, T2 closed down, 2 years ago now? And we've been talking about Jason Bourne for well over a year, maybe a year and a half now. So, honestly, maybe even longer. It seems like ever since T2 closed down, we've been talking about Jason Bourne going in. So, it's kind of odd timing. I don't know necessarily why they decided to announce it right now. A lot of the times, these announcements come when one of their rival parks announced something. So it was like, you know, D23 was coming up for Disney, so Universal announced Epic Universe. That sort of thing, like, you know. But this time around, as far as I am aware of, Disney didn't announce anything, big at least. So I don't necessarily know why Universal decided, hey, today we're going to announce the Jason Bourne thing. But regardless of their reasoning behind it, they did it, and they announced it, and all of the rumors are now confirmed. We know for a fact that Jason Bourne is going in there, and it's not just based off of their words alone. On the facade of the old T2 attraction, there is now a Jason Bourne Stuntacular marquee that is sitting in the old T2 spot. So it is not just confirmed. There is now physical evidence inside the park itself. Jason Bourne is coming, and it is almost here, regardless of how you feel about it. But let's talk about that. How do you guys feel about the Jason Bourne Stuntacular? There's been a lot of backlash online amongst fans because there's been quite a big debate of, is Jason Bourne relevant anymore? Why do we need a Jason Bourne stunt show? Like, isn't Terminator more relevant than Jason Bourne? Like, it just doesn't quite make sense. The timing of why would you put a character that's kind of lost its pop culture relevance into a park right now, especially with Universal, right? Like, Universal, over the last, their entire existence, has made it very known that attractions aren't going to stay very much longer past their pop culture relevance and their pop culture prime. So it's kind of strange that Universal would put a franchise in that is pretty much already past its pop culture relevance and prime. But then again, you're thinking, Universal opened in 1990 and they had a Jaws attraction. So I guess there's a little bit of, I can see both sides there, but at the same time, I don't think I would hold Jason Bourne to the classic state that Jaws is. Jaws is a classic film, but I don't necessarily think that Jason Bourne will be a all-time classic in the same sense that Jaws was and is and forever will be. So the question comes up, why would they specifically pick the Bourne franchise? Maybe they're planning on rebooting it. I'm not too sure, but I'm curious to see if Universal does have a roadmap for putting the Bourne franchise back into the pop culture zeitgeist, because it's really not existent as of right now. But they tried with the Jeremy Renner version of Jason Bourne, even though he wasn't Jason Bourne, but they still called it Bourne. And then the next one, the sequel, that was just called Bourne, which neither of those did very well. So I'm wondering if they have a card up their sleeve to really bring back Bourne into the pop culture zeitgeist. Because as of right now, the only thing that people know about Jason Bourne is the meme of, oh my God, it's Jason Bourne. And that I don't think you want to ride, or it's not a ride, it's a stunt show. I don't think you want a stunt show / attraction to be based off of a meme. That's probably not the best marketing situation there. I can't imagine how many memes are going to come from this ride specifically. I keep on saying ride, but it's a show. It's the same kind of show that T2 was, I think, but they say it's pushing boundaries, so who knows. But just the sheer amount of memes that's going to come from this show, it's going to be ridiculous. But I am fully prepared for those memes, and I'm going to enjoy all of them, hopefully. But honestly, my opinions, and guys, I really do want your opinion. So as soon as this episode goes out, head over to our Facebook page. I'll put up a poll on Facebook asking you guys what's your opinions of the stunt show in terms of the knowledge that we already have. Are you guys excited for it? Do you think it's a mistake to be putting it in? I personally never want to judge an attraction or a show or a ride or, whatever it's going to be. I don't personally want to judge anything before I see it and experience it for myself. But there is a little bit of information here that we can judge it off of. So I would love to know your thoughts going into it. If you have high expectations, if your expectations are very low. Personally, I have pretty high expectations for it. And it's not because of Jason Bourne, but it's because of Universal, right? So just hear me out. I think Universal has the potential to really knock this show out of the park. Because, T2 was fantastic. And if you're taking the groundwork that T2 laid down, literally and metaphorically, it's in the T2 attraction, but metaphorically as well. If you're taking the groundwork of T2 and bringing it into a more modern era, I think there is so many potential moments to just blow your mind the way that T2 did back in the day, but in a modern society with all this technology that surrounds us right now. I think they have a potential to really blow our minds. But also, I'm just thinking about the history that Universal has had with stunt shows. I mean, I'm not really counting Sinbad because that was pretty sinful and bad. But it didn't age well. It was pretty good when it came out, I guess. But by the time it finally shut down, Sinbad didn't age too well, for sure. But I mean, looking over in Hollywood, right? How many of you guys have actually seen the movie Waterworld? Seriously, Waterworld was a movie that came out in 1995. It has like a 45% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it was just like pretty much just blasted by critics and forgotten by fans. Even though the viewer rating is about 88%, I mean that's pretty good, I guess. But I'm looking up records of it right now. It had like $175 million budget, and it only brought back like $264.2 million. Which, and I know this isn't like a movie talk show, but like hear me out. When you're talking about budget of a movie, you're talking about that's like 175 million is the production value of the movie. That's how much money they put into production. But when you're talking about marketing, you're looking at it spending about half of the production budget on top of the production budget. So you're talking about spending almost another $100 million just on marketing for a movie. So now you're talking about a movie that costs about $275 million, and it only made back 265 worldwide at the box office. Waterworld did not do well for the studio or in terms of critic and fan reception. Had Kevin Costner in it, which was pretty cool, I guess. Directed by Kevin Reynolds, which is pretty cool, I guess. But overall, a forgettable movie. Like, literally, who has seen Waterworld? But then Universal decides to open up Waterworld, the show, at Universal Studios Hollywood, and to this day, it is held as one of the greatest stunt shows in theme park history. It definitely has a foothold in the top tier. These are the best shows at a theme park that you could see, which just high praise, especially when you're talking about it. Right next door is Disneyland, and then you're also dealing with other parks like Disney World and Disneyland across all of the world. Sorry, words. But anyways, like, you get what I'm saying. Waterworld movie, nobody cares. Waterworld show, everyone loves and freaks out about. It's like one of those, if you go to Universal Studios Hollywood and you've never been, Waterworld is a must-see thing. It's, forget about riding whatever ride. If it's between riding one of like the lesser rides in the park or seeing Waterworld is like beating that out for sure. Waterworld is a must-do show if you go to Universal Studios Hollywood. Now, apply that to Jason Bourne Stuntacular. I'm just saying, nobody asked for a Waterworld show. Well, nobody's asking for a Jason Bourne stunt show either. The fact is, we got a Waterworld show, and we're getting a Jason Bourne show. I am open to the possibility of it just smashing it out of the park and it being the same sort of thing. One of those things that it's like, the movie, definitely not a pop culture phenomenon. Well, it was at the time. Jason Bourne was at the time, but it's not now. It didn't have legs to last it 20 years, So you're fast forwarding to now where it doesn't have the pop culture, legs to stand on. But the show comes along, and I'm at least hoping that it smashes it out of the park. Am I with everyone else in terms of I don't care about Jason Bourne too much? The movies are okay, but they're dated. And, yes, I'm right there with you guys. But I love Universal, and I'm never going to want anything bad for Universal. When Fast and Furious was announced, and they said, "Hey, it's going to be like the tram tour, but it's its own thing." I knew it was going to suck off the top, like right off the bat. I knew it was going to suck. But did I ride it with at least hopes that it wouldn't suck? Yes, I did, and I was very let down. But I braced myself. I was like, I know it's going to suck. I don't want it to suck, but I know it's going to suck, and it sucked. It didn't just suck. It was like it. This is not a rant about Fast and Furious. Don't get me started. Don't do it because it's going to happen. Anyways, you know what I mean. Terrible ride. But, I can take the expectations that I have and manage them. I never want anything bad for Universal because I love the park. It's the park that I really grew up with. It's the park that, like, captured my heart first. I love Disney, and I love, like Six Flags, and I love Cedar Fair, and they're all great. They all offer something different, but the one that speaks to me the most, obviously, is Universal. So when it comes to their attractions, I want nothing but the best for them. So I'm going to walk in to Jason Bourne with not necessarily hopes through the ceiling, but at least hopes that I walk out liking and enjoying myself with that experience. The last thing I want is a one and done attraction at Universal. That's like Shrek for me. You walk in, you see Shrek, and you're like, cool, I saw that. And then 10 years later, you're like, it's the only ride that's 5 minutes. Maybe I'll see it again. Like you don't need to do it multiple times. Same thing with like Jimmy Fallon. There's just so many rides, and this is just Universal. Disney has its fair share of rides like that. But for Universal specifically, they already have enough attractions like that. The last thing I want is for Jason Bourne to just be, it was okay. It was a stunt show, but I want it to really blow our minds. And in terms of the press release, it seems like it's going to do that, which I should have done this to start off with. But let's go ahead and read a little segment of that press release. That press release says, the Bourne Stuntacular will follow the character of Jason Bourne around the globe as sinister characters pursue him. Everything fans have come to expect from the action-packed Bourne film franchise, aka thrilling chase scenes, punishing fist fights, death-defying leaps, and danger at every turn, will happen right in front of you with live performers, high-tech props, and immersive LED screens. Oh no, Universal. Making it impossible to discern where the live action ends and the cinema begins. Now, if you ask me, this sounds like T2 3D, but Jason Bourne themed. They're talking about immersive screens that make it impossible to discern where the live action ends and the cinema begins. That was a huge thing for T2 3D with like the motorcycle coming out of the screen, going back in the screen. Now you have the movie, and then the live characters on stage interacting with some of the screen projections and that sort of thing. It sounds very much like we will see a similar layout to the show as T2 3D. But my question really comes into, they're talking about globe-trotting kind of things where it's like sinister characters from around the globe. Are we going to go around the globe, or is it going to just be like that person's from, over there? Like, I am super curious to see how they do that, transporting us to different countries. I'm wondering if it's going to be like the movies or kind of like Indiana Jones, where it's, or I'm wondering if it's going to be kind of like Indiana Jones, where it's like, you're watching the movie and then you see the plane go over and there's like the little red line that follows it. I don't know. But I want to know, or I'm curious to see how they're able to transition from country to country or part of the globe to another part of the globe without losing the audience in I'm just watching a movie now. Because at the very end, they're talking again. They're talking about making it impossible to discern where the live action ends and the cinema begins. As soon as there's some sort of like transitional wipe and you're in a new country or whatever, that's very clearly like, oh yeah, this is the cinema part. And so because of that, I'm really curious to see how they make all of that work. Of course, I think the big takeaway is death-defying leaps and danger at every turn, with like thrilling chase scenes, punishing fist fights, that sort of thing. We're going to get some really, really cool stunt choreography, and I'm excited for that. I think that's something that Universal needs a lot more of. They definitely lack on the side of live performances, and they've proven over and over and over and over again that they have the ability to do it. We were just talking about Waterworld in Hollywood, but I mean, if you're like, as of the time of recording this, 2019, HHN 29 is going on right now, and Academy of Villains is just crushing it. So they know how to do live shows. They did Bill and Ted for the last 27 years. Or for like 27 years they did Bill and Ted, and that was a great show. It got them to the point where now when you walk through HHN, you see people with shirts that say, "Bring back Bill and Ted." Like, it's a huge thing. When Sinbad first came out, Sinbad was fantastic. It was terrible when it closed, but when it opened, it was cool. Like, they have proven that they are able to do these mind-blowing, very entertaining shows. T2 was revolutionary when it came out, which was the reason why so many people were sad to see it go. But I'm wondering if you take a much more modern element and pair it with a lot more physical live action stunts, which was something that T2 was missing. There actually weren't too many live action stunts in T2. So I'm wondering if you take that and combine it with a more modern T2. I wonder how the reception is going to be. I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the IP is. If you put on a good show, people are going to love it, and they're going to embrace it, and they're going to celebrate it. And Waterworld is a perfect example of that. It doesn't matter what the IP is. It doesn't matter that people haven't seen Waterworld. That show is so good that people love it. And I think you'll see the same thing happen with the Bourne Stuntacular when it opens, if it carries that name that T2 was. But anyways, let's move on. Really, there's only a few more things that I want to talk about in this episode. And one of them, really quick, is an update on the Disney Skyliner. Now, in the last episode, we talked a lot about this, so if you want like my full thoughts on the situation, I really encourage you to go back and listen to the last episode. But I want to do a quick follow-up, because when I was recording that last episode, the event had just happened. So I didn't have quite like all the information. Well, we don't really have all the information still, because Disney hasn't released too much about it. They haven't talked too much about it. But because it was so recent, I didn't have a whole lot to go off of. But in it, I kind of gave my thoughts on the Skyliner system as a whole, my concerns, and just, how do I feel about the Skyliner moving forward? And I want to touch a little bit on that now. But if you're unaware, I'll bring you up to speed super fast, super fast. But again, go back and listen to the last episode if you want like a full in-depth hearing my thoughts on it. Basically what happened, we're still not quite sure on the exact details. All we know is a gondola got stuck and other gondolas ran into it, and some glass broke and all that, and the Skyliner got shut down. What we don't know is why did the Skyliner get shut down? Did it get shut down for a mechanical issue? Did it get shut down because some of the gondolas got backed up and crashed. What was the cause and what was the effect? Did some of the gondolas crash because the system got shut down, or vice versa? Like, you know what I'm saying? We just don't have those details as of right now. All we know is something happened that resulted in a few gondolas colliding inside of the station, so they weren't moving fast. In fact, they just got pressed up against each other, and because of them being pressed up against each other, some of the ventilation glass broke, shattered, and those are the pictures that you see online. I personally think that people overhyped the crash itself way too much online. That crash wasn't necessarily a crash. It was just more of the gondolas bumped into each other. And that inevitably, of course, is going to happen. There are pads on the outside of the gondolas so that if that happens, no one gets hurt. But the concerning thing was that first gondola that caused the initial backup. And the way that was at a very odd and scary angle. That didn't quite make me feel too safe. I think the crash itself wasn't that big of an issue. Nobody got hurt, but the cause of that crash is really what scares me the most about it. But then I also talked about how concerned I was about the Skyliner. Like, what happens if that happens during the day, right? And I didn't talk about this in the last episode, but we have a good friend over at Inside the Magic. His name's Sean Sposato. He did a really cool article where he was talking about, or he was talking with some of the firefighters what's the name of it's Ready Creek Fire. They're the Ready Creek Fire is the station that is in charge of the area that the Skyliner runs through. And basically, he was saying pretty much everything that I said in that last episode of, Disney, and he literally said, in quotes, got lucky that this happened at night. Because what happens if this happens during the day? You have people up there that are in a glass box in the middle of the sun, and it doesn't matter how much ventilation you have. People are going to be literally cooking up there. It's not going to be good news. And he raised concerns saying that their fire department is so severely understaffed that the equipment that Disney bought to be able to evacuate the Skyliner doesn't really even matter at that point, because they don't have the staff to be able to run it in an efficient way that if something like that happened, they would be able to get people off before it's an issue. So basically, he's saying they put in a request last year for 40 new positions, and to this date, only 2 have been filled, and those 2 positions have been executive positions. So paper pusher positions, essentially. So no actual new firefighters have been brought on staff, which is very worrying, honestly. Like, I personally, one of the reasons why I have no issues riding rides like Space Mountain or Thunder Mountain or, even like the Teacups, right, is if something breaks down at Disney or any other theme park for that matter, they have the staff and the crew that are trained to evacuate people off these rides, and they're able to do it in a timely and safely manner. What concerns me about this report specifically is that Disney does not have that for the Skyliner. Yeah, there are people that are trained to professionally, evacuate people off the Skyliner and do it safely, but the concerns that this man is raising in this article is that, sure, they have those people, but they don't have enough of those people to do it quickly enough. So if a shutdown like this happens again during the day, there's going to be some issues, and that is nerve-wracking for me. My personal feelings, and I didn't state this in the last episode, so I'll state this really quickly here, but I want to turn this around and get your opinion on this. But My personal opinion is Walt Disney World is it's Walt Disney World, right? It's world class, and it sells itself as being the best of the best. It sells itself as being this is the VIP experience. If you want luxury, if you want the best theme park immersive experience that you can get out there, if you want the best of the best, come to Walt Disney World. And they definitely charge you for that too. Like they're expecting your wallets to be where their mouth is, right? They say they're top tier, so they're expecting you to pay them as if they are top tier. Disney's not a cheap vacation. It's not. It's not even for someone who lives in Florida. It's not a cheap place to go or experience, or just like it's not even a vacation for us, and it's not cheap. So why then would they clearly cheap out on a system like this? I think if there are places to cut budget, it's not in attractions that could potentially risk the health and safety of guests. I think the sure, when the Skyliner is moving, AC or no AC, that's not an issue. But it's been documented by people that when the Skyliner stops, it clearly gets hotter. Over at Mickey Views, they actually brought like a thermometer inside of the Skyliner, and when the Skyliner stopped, of course, obviously, since there's no air moving through the vents, it got hotter. It's simple science. It's like it's common sense. So if you're talking about, and that was just within like 5 minutes, like the Skyliner stops, of course. If there's a guest that is that has to have special care to be able to get on and off of the Skyliner, of course it's going to stop. But not for 3 hours. If 3 hours goes by, now we're having issues if it's in the daytime. And that's what I'm saying by if Disney is going to charge top dollar, then I really don't think they should be making decisions that are going to jeopardize their guest health and safety. At that point, I do not consider the Skyliner to be a premier, like a prime experience, like a luxury experience, which is what they're charging for when you step foot onto their property. And that honestly is really disappointing and kind of blows my mind for Disney. I really wish that they would just put that extra dollar in. They're charging you that extra dollar to be there because obviously as much as I love Universal's just down the street, and even though it's expensive, it's still a lot cheaper than what Disney would be. At the end of the day, if you want a thrilling theme park experience and not pay the Disney price, you got Six Flags, you got Cedar Fair, you got local fairs that come to your city every year. Like, you have options, but you're choosing to spend that extra dollar to go to Disney for that luxury experience. And for me personally, because I am spending that dollar, I am an annual pass holder, I would expect Disney to do the same thing, right? Spend that extra dollar to invest in something that is top of the line, that is prime, that is luxury in theme park amusement form. So that's just my personal thoughts and viewpoints, and I totally get it if you guys disagree. From a business side, I get it. There are the same company that I believe it's in Italy somewhere. Jeez, I forget off the top of my head. They have a system that does have AC in it, and the AC in that system is notorious for going down. So I'm sure Disney saw that and just said, hey, we don't want to put something in that isn't flawless. And so they went without it. I totally get it from a business point of view. It's expensive, and it's probably an expense that's not needed in a perfect world where things don't break down and where Florida's not 1,000 degrees outside. But the issue is it's not a perfect world, and it is Florida where things are 1,000 degrees outside. So, moving on, though, I really do want to get your opinions on the Disney Skyliner, the situation that it had over the last month to where it is now. Do you trust it? I know a lot of people that have basically said after this experience, until they make serious upgrades on the Skyliner, where they clearly have put in systems so that if it does go down during the day, there is some sort of ventilation that isn't just static airflow, right? I know people that have said until that happens, they're not going to step foot on the Skyliner again. And I totally respect that. For me personally, I think I will trust it, but I am very wary of it. And if something like that does happen, I am going to be very quick to point the finger at Disney, honestly, if I'm being completely honest, because a lot of these situations are things that Disney could have avoided with some easy changes here and there. Personally, like I said, though, the Skyliner, I think it's a great concept. I'm glad that they put it in. It's definitely something they need. But I just hope that they continuously work on it and improve the system. I'm glad that when something happened, they did shut it down. They did, they did the right thing. They said, we know this is a brand new system. We easily could just take that car off the line and fix it up backstage and keep the Skyliner running as normal. But what they did was they took the time to evaluate it and say, hey, what went wrong? What can we do to fix it and make sure this doesn't happen again? I think Disney did the right thing after the fact. But the issue is they didn't do the right thing before the fact. And that's what scares me going forward. So what are your thoughts on that? Seriously, guys, head over to our social media pages like Facebook and get that conversation going. We'll have some posts over there that we would love your comments and your engagement on. So go check out our Facebook page and let us know your thoughts over there. Seriously, I am interested in thinking about that. Or I am seriously interested in hearing about that. But one last thing. This is some food for thought. Pun intended. You'll get it in a second. But I have one last thing that I want to just drop out there, get you guys thinking about something, because I'm sure as things progress, we are going to hear a lot about this even more as more changes come. But food for thought. What do you guys think about this story? Just this past week, Disney World, not Disney as a whole, so Disneyland's is still the same, but Disney World decided to change the menu at Docking Bay 7, which, of course, is like the main restaurant that is in Galaxy's Edge as of right now. There were supposed to be plans of like an actual like full-service sit-down restaurant that never made it to fruition. So the only thing we got in terms of like an actual sit-down restaurant was Docking Bay 7. And Disney World decided to change the menu. Except they didn't change the menu. It's all the same food. All they did was change the name. So I'll give you a few examples. The fried Endorian Tip Yip, which is, if you saw our first vlog from Galaxy's Edge, which will be in the show notes, I'm sure, that vlog that we did where we checked out Docking Bay 7, the fried Endorian Tip Yip is what I got, and it was pretty good. Very expensive for what it was, but it was pretty good. Is now the official name is fried chicken. That's it. So no more fried Endorian Tip Yip. It's just fried chicken. The pot roast, which was called braised shake roast. It's SHAAK. So Shake Shack. I don't know. Braised shack roast is now called beef pot roast. Very creative. The Yob shrimp noodle salad is just shrimp and noodle salad, and the smoked kadu ribs are now just smoked pork ribs. So basically, what I want to ask you guys, So this is coming from a Star Wars fan, and I know a lot of you guys love Galaxy's Edge because of the theming and the park, but you guys aren't necessarily a huge Star Wars fan. Now, I know a lot of you out there are with me, where you're huge, massive Star Wars nerds like myself. But I specifically want to know from the people who just enjoy Galaxy's Edge for the land and the theming and the experience itself, not necessarily because it's Star Wars. How do you feel about this? The name changes. Obviously, like the original names like Fried and Dorian Tip Yip are what they call in-world. They're very much so part of the quote-unquote immersive theming, where the food that you eat takes place inside of the Star Wars canon, right? Like, if you went to Batuu in the Star Wars canon, they would be serving Fried and Dorian Tip Yip. And to the people who live in the Star Wars universe, that just makes sense. Like, people know what Tip Yip is. People know what a Kadu is. People know what a Shake Shack is. I don't know how to say that. But like, point is, it's all like in-world theming. But of course, in reality, as much as people don't want to admit that Disney World takes place in reality, not some fairy tale or land that's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, it takes place in reality. People don't know what Tip Yip is. People don't know what Kadu is. But what they do know is what chicken is. They do know what beef is. So I get it from both sides of the spectrum, where Disney just wants to be like, hey guys, don't freak out. We're not giving you some crazy, weird, gross, disgusting food. It's just beef. It's just normal pork ribs, guys. Kadu is just it's normal pork ribs. Tip Yip, it's just chicken. You like chicken? Well, get the Tip Yip. And people are like, but I don't want Tip Yip. I want chicken. And it's like, it's the same thing. So I get it from both sides. But for me personally, I find it kind of scary for the future. And this is something that I've been weary of from the very beginning, ever since they announced Galaxy's Edge. It's a big promise that I'm afraid in reality just won't work, right? They want to create a world and a universe that is so immersive that you can stay in the hotel and take a transport all the way from outer space, all the way down to the land of Batuu, spend your whole day on Batuu, and then go back up to your space hotel. And in between, have zero encounter with the real world. But then, you run into the issue of, like, the 65-year-old dad who's there with his kids that just, their kids want chicken, and you'll want to eat Star Wars because you're a Star Wars fan, but you're not like a diehard Star. You don't know these things, and your kids are screaming, just give me the chicken, and your kids are like, I don't want Tip Yip. Like, so I get it. Just calling it fried chicken makes business sense, and it makes life easier for everyone. But at the end of the day, is making life easier, is that more important, or is theming more important? Because as of right now, Disney's very much said that this is the most immersive themed land that you could ever experience. So theming seems to be the most important. But then changing the names of the food kind of goes against it. And then also, like, you're just canon person like me, right? Like, is it actually called fried chicken in canon, or is it what? Because Disneyland's never changed. If you go to Disneyland right now, it's still going to be Fried and Dorian Tip Yip. But if you go to Disney World right now, it's fried chicken. So which one is it? Mind blown. I don't know. But I want to ask you guys: is this more serious than just the name changing, or you think it's just they just changed the name because it makes more sense? For me, I'm kind of scared because I'm seeing the cracks in the theming that they promised would never show. But they're the cracks that I was afraid were going to be there all along, especially when they cut back on the characters that are walking through the land. They cut back on the whole droid idea. There are so many interactive elements, like you're supposed to walk through the land and there are just droids rolling around. There were supposed to be people dressed in costumes and that were actually just characters that were walking around, that told a story, that it wasn't just a sea of tourists and then like 2 or 3 Batuian residents. It was supposed to be like the other way around, which obviously from a real world mindset of like, how is this going to work? It just doesn't make sense. But ever since they started cutting that back down, and then as much as I think the Coke cans look really cool, but it's like, Coke doesn't, like, it's never existed in Star Wars. Why does it exist here? It just doesn't make sense. And every time I see that Coke can, the first thing I think of is, right, I'm at Disney World. It's the whole reasoning to why J.K. Rowling didn't want Coca-Cola in Harry Potter. It's the whole mindset of, right, we're just at a theme park. And I'm afraid that this name change of the food is a sign of what's to come. A sign of park ops being like, guys, it's not working. Guys, it's confusing. How about we instead, it's called blue milk, but there's not milk in it. So why don't we just call it like blue rice juice? Because it's made out of rice, so it's not milk, it's blue rice juice. How about we call it blueberry something? Like, of course they're never going to do that because blue milk is a staple in Star Wars, but like, you get what I'm saying. Of course, it's nothing as severe as, they're changing the name of the Millennium Falcon because people are confused. What is that massive ship called? It's not like that. It's never going to be that extreme. But at what point do they say, okay, nobody knows what a Ronto wrap is, so let's call it a sausage wrap? And then from there, the next step is people just, aren't buying it because it's sausage. But you know what people would buy right off the bat because they know what it is? A hot dog. So why don't we just get rid of the Ronto wraps and just sell hot dogs instead? And we'll call it hot dog roasters. How about that? And then the next step after that would be, kids just freaking want like chicken tenders, man. Just give them chicken tenders. And I think they do have chicken tenders. I know they have mac and cheese for kids. They're just not on the menu. You have to specifically ask for it, but I think they have it. But like, at what point do they just get rid of all the in-world theming and the in-world food and just say, here's some burgers and hot dogs and chicken tenders? And to me, that is what really scares me, because that is the difference in, the true immersive theming that something like Harry Potter is versus, like Tomorrowland in Magic Kingdom. It's a great theme. It's really cool, but it's not so immersive that you feel like you're in a futuristic city of tomorrow. It feels like a theme park. And a lot of that has to do with the vendors that are on the side of the street selling a Mickey Mouse pretzel that we don't have in Galaxy's Edge yet. And that's why Galaxy's Edge is one of the, if not the best themed areas in the planet. And that includes like Avatar and Harry Potter. Those few like small specific details are what really tie these whole areas together and make them as immersive as they are. So seriously, guys, I want to know from you. Do you think this is a serious concern of what's coming in the future, or is this just it made sense? At some point, it had to happen, and it happened, and there's no use getting upset about it. Hopefully, it's smooth sailing from here. I want to know your point of view. So go ahead, head over to our Facebook page and interact with us. I would love to know your thoughts. But anyways, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Like I said, I've been plugging the social media this entire episode. So seriously, you guys better not follow it. You better go over there and interact with us, please. But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. It actually really does help out this channel, just knowing that you guys are here enjoying the things that we love together. I have a blast talking about theme parks because theme parks just run in my blood to its core. So thank you guys so much for just celebrating theme parks with us. But I have been your host, Jonathan Holt. You can find me on Instagram at JohnHolt96. Again, that'll be in the description. And of course, I know we were out last week, but you can expect to find us here every Monday, and at the latest, sometimes we get episodes out on Tuesday, like we are this week. Sometimes our schedule just gets crazy busy, but and I'm sure you guys understand that, so I appreciate it. But you can find us every week on Monday. It's what we aim for. But if anything happens, just check us out on Facebook, and we will let you know from there. Again, I'm Jonathan Holt, Instagram, JohnHolt96. I would appreciate you following me over there. I post a ton of stuff about theme parks. It's a lot of fun. But until next week, I will be talking to you over on our social media. And, of course, on our YouTube channel as well. Don't forget to follow our YouTube channel. We are going to Busch Gardens, and we're doing Hollow Scream as well. So check out all of the updates that are coming from Busch Gardens. We're going to be looking at Iron Gwazi, and then in the next video, we're going to be taking you through Hollow Scream. I'm super excited because I haven't been this year, and I love HHN this year. I can't wait to compare and contrast and bring you guys along with us. So until next week, take it easy. I will see you then. Peace.